The CDC says that the war has changed, and it's because of the Delta variant. A new agency report released Friday details how contagious the strain really is. Officials are now urging local health authorities, even in areas without high or substantial transmission, to consider additional mitigation measures. That includes universal masking in some settings. The pace of new cases in the U.S. has nearly doubled in the last 2 weeks, and the Delta variant is largely to blame. Earlier this week, the head of the CDC said hospitalizations have surged past levels seen a year ago. Meanwhile, the pace of first-dose vaccinations is continuing to climb. Scientists say that while the shots may not prevent infection or transmission 100% of the time, they do, quote, prevent more than 90% of severe disease. Michael George leads off our coverage.
Masks went back on in Disneyland yesterday for anyone, vaccinated or not, who steps indoors at the amusement park. Walmart, the nation's largest employer, is taking it a step further, requiring employees to wear masks in high-infection areas, regardless of their vaccination status. And the president, late yesterday, told reporters there's likely more to come.
In all probability, by the way, we had a good day yesterday. Almost 1 million people got vaccinated. About 500,000 of those people for the first time, for the second shot. And so I'm hopeful that people are beginning to realize how essential it is.
That's what Dolores Armenta did. She got the shot.
It was hard for me to decide as well.
And Ruben Chavez got the shot too this week.
Mentally, I feel like better.
But even the vaccinated need to be careful. Dr. Anthony Fauci delivered more sobering news yesterday.
That vaccinated people who do have a breakthrough infection are clearly capable of transmitting the infection to an uninfected person.
And with the fast-spreading Delta variant, the risk of getting sick is playing out loud.
I need every single force in this crowd. Hands up. 1, 2, baby, what you love?
At this weekend's Lollapalooza Music Festival in Chicago, masks are not mandatory, but proof of vaccinations or a negative COVID test are required.
I need a vaccination card in your hand.
The mayor is letting the show go on, despite warnings it could easily be a super spreader event. For example, more than 1,000 COVID cases were reportedly linked to a Dutch music festival this month. About 20,000 people attended with protocols similar to Lollapalooza.
For more now, I want to bring in CBS News researcher Max Baer. Max, great to have you here. On Friday, the CDC published the, quote, pivotal discovery about the Delta variant that prompted this updated mask guidance earlier in the week. Tell our viewers what we've learned.
Yes, so that's been a very critical report, and it's obviously been reported on significantly. It found that among 469 COVID cases in Massachusetts, stemming from multiple summer events and large gatherings, nearly a third of those cases were among vaccinated individuals. When they sequenced, among sequenced cases, 90% were the Delta variant. It also found that the cycle threshold value, which is basically a barometer of how much virus a person has, and it's used to find out if someone is positive or not, was similar among vaccinated and unvaccinated people. And while the 74% is kind of what's making headlines, it's actually that second finding that is more critical to the mask mandate, because that's what's actually informing the CDC that even among some vaccinated people, the amount of virus may be high enough to transmit. And I also want to point out one critical piece of missing information that's important when talking about the 74% figure, which is that we don't know how many total vaccinated people there were at these events, which would kind of give you a bit more of insight into actual vaccine efficacy in this setting. And the CDC almost explicitly points this out in the report, saying that as population-level vaccination coverage increases, vaccinated people are likely to represent a larger proportion of COVID cases.
And Max, Louisiana Governor John Bel Edwards said Friday that at this point, quote, it's not whether we vaccinate or mask, we have to do both. How bad is the COVID situation there, and is issuing a mask mandate a direction that more states are leaning towards?
That's a great question. Well, and to start off in Louisiana, the situation there is certainly concerning and maybe even dire. The state's now averaging more COVID cases now than it had at any point in the pandemic. One analysis said they're actually accelerating faster than at any point in the pandemic. Hospitalizations are nearing record levels. And the number of people on ventilators is rising as well, now with more than 160 residents on ventilators. Worth noting, though, that unvaccinated people make up nearly 90% of hospitalizations in that state. But to your second question, that's the big one, because you do see some localities that are reinstituting actual mandates, Los Angeles County being one of them, St. Louis City and St. Louis County. States are also reinstituting recommendations. You mentioned Louisiana, California as well. I know the city of Chicago just went to a recommendation. So you're kind of seeing that at this stage of the pandemic, given the number of vaccinated people that we have and public health officials' recognition that people are frankly exhausted, there's been some that are going with recommendations and some that are going with mandates. I think just trying to figure out what might be the best to institute that actually gets followed and that people will try and uptake.
Well, because of how contagious the Delta variant is, experts warn it's likely that we're going to see more breakthrough infections. How concerned should vaccinated people be about this Delta surge?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I think what people need to, the top line thing that the CDC has been saying, and that is completely evident in the data, is that if you are vaccinated, your risk of a serious COVID infection, something that puts you in the hospital, something that puts you in the ICU, is reduced significantly, as is your risk of death. I do think that we're seeing with the Delta variant that the likelihood that you might be infected I believe the CDC was said it's something in 1 in maybe 10% with the Delta variant, but still that's not even accounting for some that might be asymptomatic. I think that what people who are vaccinated should be retaining is that given what we are learning now about the contagiousness of Delta, even for vaccinated people, a mask is the best way to protect the people around you. I don't think people who are vaccinated should have any more fears than they did the week before this, that they're safe from having a serious infection. It's just a matter of what we're learning about what they might be able to spread to others. And given the level of unvaccinated people that remain in this country, it's kind of back to the old mantra of masks in the first place, which is not only do they protect you, but they protect other people. And that's, I think, the top line point to retain.
All right. Max Baer, thank you.
Thank you.